Hello, everybody. How are we doing today? Good to see everyone.
It's my cue to turn this on.
Yes, ma'am. How are you?
Good.
All right, everyone. We ready? Got everybody? Okay. We'd like to thank you for coming. I think you saw our press release that we put out this morning. Definitely good news for the family. Definitely good news for the community. So we really wanted to provide some context and update. Before we get started, I'd like to do some introductions. With me is Deputy Chief Shannon Wichendall. She oversees our investigations division. Captain Scott Merce is our Detective Bureau Commander, and Lieutenant Rachel Wiggin is our Violent Crimes Unit Commander, and they have really led the charge on this investigation. So we know on February the 13th, 2024, approximately 6:15 p.m., we received a shot spotter alert, followed by several 911 calls for shots fired in the 3200 block of Peele Court. Our responding officers located an 8-year-old male suffering from a life-threatening gunshot wound to the head. Over the last 2 weeks, we have created a digital evidence portal that is definitely new to our case investigations to allow the community to feed video of potential interest to us directly. Crime Solvers, a great partner for the police department, increased award money to $5,000. And Captain Merce and the Detective Bureau established a task force specifically for this shooting. You know, I would say that every shooting, every homicide that occurs in the city of Virginia Beach obviously is a priority. But when we have an 8-year-old male that is playing video games in his residence, it tugs at the heartstrings a little bit more. And we're going to make sure that we do everything we can to bring justice in that incident. That task force, sometimes 30 or 40 separate officers working on different aspects of this case. And I think that shows what a priority for this police department that this offense was. This task force authored and served over 30 individual search warrants. And I can't tell you the hundreds of hours that these detectives and their lead team spent trying to identify the individuals involved in this heinous crime. And as a result of all this effort, we are pleased to announce the arrest of the following 3 individuals. Torian Cook, 21 years of age, from Chesapeake, Virginia. He is facing 27 felony charges, to include aggravated malicious wounding, use of a firearm, conspiracy, and 24 counts of maliciously discharging a firearm into a dwelling. Jerry Davis, 24 years of age, from Chesapeake, Virginia, also facing identical charges, 27 felony counts, 1 count of aggravated malicious wounding, 1 count of use of a firearm, 1 count of conspiracy, also 24 counts of maliciously discharging a firearm into a dwelling. Jakira Epperson, 21 years of age, from Norfolk, facing 2 felony charges for attempt to conceal and destroy evidence and conspiracy to conceal and destroy evidence. And what I will say is, our investigation determined that this was not a random incident. We do not believe the victim nor the family members were the intended target, but we do believe that a separate individual that was outside the residence that day that has connections to that community was the focus of this shooting. And we hope that these arrests give the family and community the closure that they need while we continue to pray for the recovery of our victim. And I will say that those that are with me, they led these investigative efforts. but it's definitely not a solo effort, and we would like to recognize the following that played a large role. So our VBPD First Precinct Patrol, the first responders to this incident, and they encountered a very chaotic scene, as you can imagine. The ability to stabilize that scene, protect and preserve evidence, witnesses, critical to where we are today. And of course, our Detective Bureau and investigative personnel. Our crime suppression squads, they're in each of the precincts, working in conjunction with our detectives. Our warrant fugitive unit, picking individuals up that may have had some involvement in this offense on unrelated charges so that we can investigate further. Of course, our Special Investigations Bureau, and we couldn't do it without our forensic team that goes out and meticulously processes these scenes for any and all available evidence to make sure that we can successfully prosecute these cases. We have to thank the Virginia Beach Sheriff's Office for their assistance, Commonwealth's Attorney. Mr. Colin Stolley and his team have been plugged into this investigation from the beginning, providing valuable legal guidance and direction to help us get to this resolution. We mentioned crime solvers, and last, the community. We can never do it without the community. Their tips, their information that they provided our department, critical in helping us identify the individuals involved. And at this point, we'll entertain any questions that you may have of us. Ma'am.
Chief, was the shooting at all gang-related?
We do believe there are some gang associations related to this, and that is part of our ongoing investigation. And I should, this is something that look to the media for us to continue to get that word out, that we have 3 arrests right now, but this is not the end of the investigation. We do believe there are other people that may have played a part in this, and that continues, and there may be additional charges down the road.
Do you know the motive behind the shooting?
At this time, no.
What led you, Chief, to these 3 suspects?
A lot of dedicated investigative time and efforts. We let the evidence take us to where we are. So it's the evidence, the interviews, and the totality of the investigation.
Can I ask you, when were those arrests made? Was it shortly after the shooting happened, or?
Captain?
So for Shakira, it was on February 14th, so that's following the day of, and then afterwards, it was currently this week where we had the shooters in custody.
Why did you all wait until today to announce with the first arrest?
So the first arrest is for Shakira, and the charges are for the concealment and for the instruction. And so her behavior is connected with some of the on-site behavior of the day of the shooting. And for the other 2 people, after weeks of evidence and review, they're highly culpable as the people they're responsible for shooting at that residence.
Why 24 charges each for maliciously discharging a firearm?
Captain, you want to touch on that?
Yes, sir. So for all of the casings that came through, there were 24 total that were located at the scene, indicating that a minimum of 24 bullets were fired at that residence. Each one of them had the potential for someone else to get hit or to cause a lethal injury, of which they are charged with a very serious code, a class 4 felony for each one of those. So we're looking for the accountability in court for the judge to review their actions for those 24 bullets.
And I think it's fair to, we discussed this earlier, that looking at the severity of the charges, and I think the severity of this incident warrants what we were able to procure. If convicted on all counts, potentially up to 240 years in prison for each of those 2 individuals.
So from your understanding, was someone else standing outside the home and that person was the intended target? And was that person also gang-related?
We do believe that the intended target was outside the residence that day, and we do believe there are some gang affiliations, group or gang affiliations that run through this investigation. So we have not procured any specific gang charges at this time, but some of the individual players are known to us and are known for some gang associations, and that is always something that we're going to take a look at, that are there gang associations and affiliations, and if there are, does this spread beyond this isolated incidents? Because We're always concerned about retaliatory acts, what other individuals, many of these, and we don't know the exact motive, but many of these are neighborhood beefs and associations over different things. Sometimes it's turf, sometimes it's drug dealing, sometimes it's disrespect, and a lot of the times these are solved with bullets and not fists anymore, as we all know.
Chief, you talked about how there's been an increase in multi-shot fire incidents in the city last year. With the weapon used in this incident, was it something that was modified to shoot 24 rounds? Or?
We don't have any information at this time that it was an automatic firearm.
You're accurate.
And with you saying that, this investigation isn't over yet, are there going to be increased patrols in that neighborhood for safety for the other residents?
We stepped it up immediately after that to provide some sense of reassurance to the community, and I think this is that next piece for us, to let the community know that these individuals that we believe were responsible are now in custody and they're facing serious consequences, and if convicted, they will not be a threat or a danger to that community in the foreseeable future.
And that new evidence portal that was introduced to this case, did that help at all with these arrests?
Yes, so the technology came online and it was a blessed timing for that to occur. And we do have community response in which people have submitted evidence to that portal.
Can you submit to that anonymously?
It'll always be maintained as, when we're working with crime solvers, and that option for anonymity exists through the crime solvers portal. And for those that are willing to cooperate directly and be identified, then we use it directly from the evidence portal.
Was the targeted individual in this case, is he a resident of that neighborhood?
We believe he's a Virginia Beach resident.
But not necessarily that neighborhood?
I don't think we want to speak to
Okay.
specifically where he is, but we will acknowledge that we do believe he's a Virginia Beach resident.
I think you said 30 search warrants were carried out in this.
Correct.
Is there any chance we're going to get more suspects?
I think that's the hope, that there may be other parties involved, and that if we can determine that we will hold them accountable. Our goal is to hold everyone that had some part of this accountable, not only the two individuals that we believe actually fired shots, but like we have charged the third individual that we believe tried to tamper and alter evidence at the scene.
Chief, do you have a message to this young boy's parents?
Absolutely, I do. I mean, I think the message is we share your pain. That pain was evident from everyone here, from the detectives, the conversations that we were having about this specific investigation and how much it impacted them, because many of them, they have small children as well. And to have your child as parents inside your residence where you're doing the right thing, and to have this happen, I mean, it tears at our heartstrings. We heard you, we felt the pain with you, and we hope that our work makes it a little more palatable. And we pray that he will recover from this, and that we will be part of that when that happens.
And unfortunately, another juvenile shot and killed on Almondy Avenue. Is there any update or any comment you can make about that situation?
Absolutely, Raven. Last night we have teenagers that procured a firearm. From what we know, a firearm that was not secured in the residence. Curiosity, mishandling, playing with a firearm, and now we have a deceased 14-year-old and a 15-year-old that has now been charged. What we see and what is very disturbing, a lot of our investigations focus around social media. I don't think that's any surprise to anyone here. It shouldn't be a surprise to our community. The level and the amount of firearms and juveniles that we see in the city of Virginia Beach, that we see in Hampton Roads, is disturbing. We've had these conversations presented at council. A lot of these firearms are stolen out of vehicles, they're stolen out of residences, and they are ending up in the hands of our teenagers, and they shouldn't be there. And as a result, one of the things that we saw, and not just our teenagers last year, Second Amendment, there is a right to own firearms. But I would offer, with that right should come some responsibility. And I don't think that's always the case. And we saw for our homicides, specifically last year, an increase in the number of homicides where the proximate result was reckless handling of that firearm. There was no intent to kill a family member. There was no intent to kill your friend, but you have a firearm and you are not following the basic rules of safety, and the firearm goes off, and now we have a dead family member, a dead friend. And I would, to the community, please secure those firearms. 1 out of 10 of every vehicle broken into in the city of Virginia Beach, they get a gun. 1 out of every 10. And I think we had 2,700 cars broken into last year. So roughly 250, 270, maybe 300 firearms just taken out of cars. That doesn't count what's stolen out of our residences, and those are ending up in the hands of criminals. They're ending up in the hands of our juveniles. We are seeing juveniles on social media actively selling firearms. And I believe you asked about the automatic firearms. They have the Glock switches on the back. They're actively talking about the Glock switches and what that does. They're selling the Glock switches. So it is very, very concerning. And we as a community, we have to do better.
And in that case, Almondy Avenue, do we know where the gun came from?
It's still part of our ongoing investigation that we're not going to talk about currently, but yes, we do.
So just to be clear, was last night's shooting accidental?
We do believe so. But we've already secured criminal charges for the negligence involved, involving a 15 and a 14-year-old.
Are you able to speak to the relationship between them, or is that also under?
I think it's still part of the ongoing investigation, so we'll decline at this current time. Okay. Last
Going
one.
back to this one, did any of these suspects have pre-existing warrants that were for crimes before the shooting?
Yes, that's accurate.
At least one of them did?
Yeah, during our investigation, when we're looking at anybody that could be connected with it, some people had active warrants on file.
Is there anything notable, just the 3 suspects that have been arrested and arraigned, is there anything notable in their criminal history?
You would have to define notable, but they do have misdemeanors and felonies amongst the group of people that we were looking for.
Okay, I think that's gonna conclude our press conference today, but thank you so much for coming out. We really appreciate your interest in covering the story.
Thank you all.
It's a big win for justice for us today, so thank you so much.
Good to see everyone.
Like,
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.